Morning, everyone. Welcome back after the tea break. Like Jay here, I've got 3 standards and 2 of them have got rather long names, but I'll try and keep them simple. 402 and 620, I'll spend a bit of time, but the bulk of my time will be spent on the practical aspects of 600. I've done this before in a similar sort of capacity when we started off this project on clarified SSAs, where I've talked about what was the standard before and what has changed. So I'll still cover that because I think it's still important to understand what has changed and what's the background. But what I have done, especially around 600, is in the later slides, I've seen what are the lessons we have learned during the course of this year, because most of the listed company audits for December 2010 are over, and we've learned quite a lot. But the important thing is that there's still quite a bit to be done. And that I would say generally about clarified SSAs. There's a tendency amongst all of us as auditors, we think we all know auditing standards at the back of our hands, but sometimes that is not the case. And that was clearly proven with 600 because lots changed. It went through many exposure drafts, and what we have today is a finished product, but with a lot of questions. 2 weeks ago, we had an update for Deloitte's in the region, where we all attended, and we talked about clarified ICPAS or SSAs, and also, what were the lessons learned from 600 in the last year audits. And you'd be surprised, there were a lot of lessons. We in Singapore has had a lot of questions, which still, in a number of cases, people and even our global technical people don't have answers. And as my previous speakers, Kaka and Che have mentioned, there's still a lot of things which I think I was hearing and I was saying, I think this is something I better take note of. So it's not that, the SSAs already became effective for December or 2010 year ends, and therefore that's it. There's still lots of things to learn. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background before I sort of move on. So let's just start. So the first segment is going to be around 402 and 620. 402 is on service organizations. So what are the auditor's responsibilities when we encounter a service organization? Now, all of us, and being in Singapore where in some cases costs are rising, a lot of our clients have moved their accounting or different other aspects of their business to a service organization. In a lot of cases, in some cases it could be with an organization in Singapore, and in a lot of cases it could be overseas. And the thing is, where we as auditors are going in and looking at particular aspects of internal controls of an entity, which they don't exercise at the entity, it's exercised by a service organization, then how do we really get comfortable? In some cases, we get books and records which have been produced by another organization, whether it's an accounting organization or a BPO or another form of outsourcing sort of arrangement. But how do we really get comfortable? And this is effectively a standard which tells us how we can get comfortable. I've got a few slides, and I'm not sure whether you encounter this a lot, but generally we see as multinationals move away, trying to reduce costs, they have moved over to sort of lower cost sort of centers. In a number of cases, they have very few people within Singapore, but a bulk of the processing is done elsewhere. And as I said, this standard really talks about how we get comfortable with that. So the real question is, what has the entity done? How much outsourcing has it done? Has it outsourced specific tasks, which is under the direction of the entity? So ultimately, the entity, the user entity itself takes responsibility, and they've only outsourced specific tasks, which is normally the case for tax, for example. A lot of companies in Singapore, as we know, they don't do tax in-house. They just outsource to a tax service provider, which could include GST, or it could include corporate tax or any other aspects of tax, some cases personal tax for expatriates, etc. Or it could be another situation where they could have replaced entire business unit or functions, which is really keeping a few people within the entity, but they've really outsourced everything. Now, the question we as auditors need to answer is all of this outsourcing that the entity has done, whether it's really relevant to our audit. Because if it's not relevant to our audit, it's